Because they're throwing back to like old drops from the old place in addition to the new stuff from this place. They've got all the regions sectioned out, so Stoney's got drops like sleeping with his sister and stuff. It's all queued up for one of the regions later today. 2 to 6, the whole deal. They're going to be going wall to wall.
So. I can't wait to hear that. That's
awesome.
A must listen every single year.
I was listening to Rico yesterday. He's like, I got the best seat in the house, man. Like these guys just go to town and it's a lot of laughs. It's one of the great things we do here. So I'm excited for that. So Gator will be solo, and then they'll have a party at 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll be interesting to see if it's an old school drop that wins it,
well, you'll have
or
at
new
least
school.
One in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And then it's all depend on who calls in at the right time. Like, I don't know if you're familiar. They got this guy, the Doughboy. They're nodding back. Oh, you don't know about the Doughboy. It's a guy who throws back to, like, the Stoney and Wojo days. And he calls in, and he sounds like the Pillsbury Doughboy, and it's really creepy. And it gets under, like, Valenti's skin, and you can, like, hear through the radio his skin's crawling as they go into the phone call. But he'll call in the last hour. He always does.
Have you seen the list?
So they were going through some of the 1 seeds yesterday.
Yeah.
And I have not seen
Did we make any of the 1 seeds?
We did not make any of the 1 seeds.
All right. That's good to know.
Is that good to know?
Oh, I don't know.
That's a good question. Do you want to win the tournament or not?
I don't know. There's some from Heather. I'm not sure if they're going to use them.
She's nodding her head. She's like, do not use those. Because you know what happens is you play it one time, people start laughing, and then everybody feels like they're going to let it go and carry on, and they push for it. They campaign. They get a veto. It's a whole thing for people who haven't listened to it.
Yeah. No. So it'll be fun. 2 to 6. Make sure you listen in at that time because it's going to be 4 hours of entertaining radio.
Hilarity. Do we have Gator standing by?
Yes.
Gator ready. Gator, what's up?
Gator, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Enjoyed the whole evening last night. It was a job well done by Major League Baseball.
I thought it was too. I thought the environment in Atlanta was great. The game was a lot of fun, and we've had some feedback about the Tigers' performance. I don't really care about that.
But be ready for it, Gator. You're going to have some
I know.
people.
I hear
I
you.
loved Tarek Skubal being mic'd up, and I loved the hit-off at the end of the game. It was so much fun. I know they'll never implement the swing-off, whatever you want to call it, the impromptu home run derby to settle the score. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that it was – I thought what Major League Baseball did yesterday was a home run, but not a grand slam, and it could have been a grand slam, but I'll explain that a little bit later. I was actually Skubal mic'd up you like? Because I didn't think he said anything.
Well, he didn't really have a lot of time.
And he's talked about it since, like the 15-second pitch clock. You don't even have a chance to catch your breath. You're in the windup, and they're asking you a question. I thought he was talkative up until he gave up the first couple hits, and then I felt like he had to zero in and bore down. I liked the idea, though, of getting the battery, pitcher and catcher. But Skubal's like, he's not going to tell me the pitch. The batter's right there. Yeah. He's not going to say, hey, changeup's coming. So I like the idea. It wasn't executed perfectly.
No, it wasn't. But the strange thing was then you had, and I was writing notes during the game last night. One of my notes was, I like the idea of doing it, but it's probably a bad idea. Just mic somebody else up. Having the pitcher mic'd up when he's got to focus as much as he does, and he's got 15 seconds to communicate and throw a pitch, probably not the right thing to do. And yet, Clayton Kershaw was amazing at it.
Did you love that moment where Smoltz, I don't throw that pitch, and then he throws it in the dirt because he's all discombobulated?
Yeah. It's like, I don't even have that. They're like, I was going to throw a splitter or something. He's like, I don't throw a splitter. And he's out after he comes out after 2 batters, which is interesting because the rules are changed in the All-Star game compared to what they are in the regular season. But nonetheless, he looked good with his opportunity to play in an All-Star game when people were like, "Oh, great, you're just giving it to him," for the purpose of being a Hall of Famer, which is what they did with Miggy a few years ago too. Which is it's fine. He was good in that situation.
So you're going to tell us how it could have been even better. What else on the show today?
Look, we got a lot of baseball stuff I want to unpack with the All-Star game and also with the Tigers and how people are feeling about that because I do know people have feelings. And with the Lions, there's some crazy things going on in the NFL, and I'm not sure I understand it fully, and I'm sure you guys got into it. I just didn't hear what John had to say about it. But the whole contract thing for rookies, whether you're Shamar Stewart or you're anybody in the second round, I'm not sure I understand what the hell's going on with the NFL or what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe it's just the Bengals being the Bungles. But what's happening with everybody else in the second round? Like, why are they not guaranteeing a contract for a second round?
Well, I mean, they're trying to set it. They want to make sure they keep the precedent. The players, the agents right now are basically trying to renegotiate the CBA on the fly and get more money guaranteed. And trust me, I'm all for every single guarantee a player can get. But to me, that's more of a CBA issue than it is something that's going to happen on the fly.
I mean, I guess I find it odd that it's
such a small percentage of the cap.
I'm with you, man.
It doesn't affect how many players that are drafted in the second round or later, for that matter. But let's just go with the second round. How many second round draft picks are released after 1 or 2 years?
It's a rare number. But it does happen.
And it's more likely they're going to contribute or even start. So guarantee the guys deal. Get them into camp.
Right.
Don't deal with the headaches.
You're the NFL. You make money hand over fist. Let's go.
Right, but
they don't want to give ground.
It all gets into the whole collusion that was supposedly settled, and, hey, they don't want to guarantee money after the Deshaun Watson contract. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on, and the union's not very strong, and that's part of the problem. It's a very weak union.
So anyway, we'll get into that as well. We got some Everman stuff and a couple of interesting. Hey, it's National You Know What Day is kind of fun as well. So Kang and I will be happy to take some calls and talk to the people about it.
Perfect. It's coming up next. 97.1.
Brought to you by Applied Innovation. The Tigers remain off until Friday as the All-Star break continues. Tarek Skubal spoke to the media after the game yesterday and asked, and they asked, who he learned most from this All-Star game. Former Tiger and current Diamondback Eugenio Suarez was hit by a pitch in the hand yesterday. He remained in the game defensively, making a solid barehanded play after that. X-rays after the game were negative if Arizona sells at the deadline, which for context are 5.5 games back of the last wild card spot. Suarez expected to be a name shopped at least. Some have paired his name with Detroit as a target. General Mills Cereal has announced that Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown's upside-down touchdown celebration will be featured on their Honey Nut Cheerios boxes this football season. They're calling it the Honey Handstand. He said in the release, quote, "Growing up, I never would have thought I'd be in a cereal box, and I had a blast recreating my headstand for Honey Nut Cheerios, the OG cereal for me," end quote. Will be available in August for just $3.50. Lions quarterback Jared Goff announced the birth of his baby girl yesterday with a post on social media. The name, Romy Isabel Goff. Longtime Michigan gymnastics coach Bev Flocky has announced her retirement from the Wolverines. Her tenure, 37 years, 1 national championship, 26 Big Ten titles, and 11 Coach of the Years. The NBA Board of Governors discussed potential league expansion this week. The result, they've not decided. At the Corwell House Sports Desk, I'm Jeremy Otto. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket or Odyssey.com.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Karsch and Anderson program. Gator with you today, along with Kang. Kenny working the phones, and we take your calls and texts as always at 248-539-9797. And look, there's no other place to start than what happened last night. We had the All-Star game last night in Atlanta, or Atlanta adjacent, and I thought it was great. I thought it was a home run for baseball. I liked just about everything about it. There was intrigue throughout the game. You know, the National League got out to a lead early off of Tarek Skubal, which was unfortunate. But when you go back and look at it, I mean, he had Shohei Ohtani leaning way across the plate, and Shohei being Shohei just kind of leans over and flicks his bat and somehow flicks it into very shallow center field on a weak bloop hit, but it's a hit. And then next batter up steps up to the plate and has an opportunity against Skubal, and that was Ronald Acuna Jr., and hits the slowest ground ball you'll ever see over to second base. Gleyber Torres, by the time he gets it, Acuna's already at first base, and then he got 2 on, nobody out. Ketel Marte then comes up and ropes a double down the line and scores both, and it's 2-0 before you can blink your eye. And then Skubal was able to settle down after that. But, I mean, settling down, really just gave up the one hard hit ball. The other two, not bad. But giving up the 2 runs, people are going to look at it, and I understand some people may actually panic about that. Well, we'll hear from those people, I'm sure. But that's how the game starts. And the Tigers All-Stars didn't really make an impact in the game. 0 for 8 combined with a few strikeouts. That was unfortunate. You had the I mentioned already, Skubal giving up the 2 runs in the first inning, and then you had Casey Mize had a chance to pitch later in the game, and only went 2/3 of an inning, gave up a hit, gave up a run. It was, of course, a home run that he had given up. Also had a strikeout in there, but he threw his 10 pitches, 8 of them for strikes, but one of them goes yard, and that doesn't look good either. So as far as the 6 Tigers, nobody really stood out as in a good way for the Tigers. So the local part, maybe not so good. And we do have a question about that. But as far as the rest of the game was concerned, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it is 6-0 after the big 4-run 6th inning for the National League. And then the 7th inning comes around, and the American League is able to plate 4 runs to make it a game. They score 2 more in the 9th to tie it up. And I was really pulling for the American League, hoping, let's go. Let's get 1 more run across the board and win this thing. Even though I didn't bet on the game. I don't have a vested interest other than I love the American League and I don't like the National League. And I always root for the American League. But it's not like I had money on it. So it ends up being a 6-6 tie, and baseball does something they've never done in an all-star game before. And they've ended in ties before, and that was very unpopular. So what do you do when you have a tie baseball game in the all-star game? Well, what you do is you listen to the Carson Anderson Show, because our producer Kang had the idea. Am I right, Kang, or am I right?
Listen, man, no one's going to remember this but me, because it was my one of my most random ideas, but I brought up to you and Doug years ago about having baseball go into basically a home run derby swing-off style like they did last night at the All-Star game instead of extra innings. And it was just I think at the time we're talking about how, the popularity of baseball wasn't growing as fast as they wanted to. I think the fan base was older than they wanted to.
Yep.
And I had this crazy idea of just having, and it was a little different what they did last night, but what they did last night was totally fine. It was you pick a player from your own team, you get certain amount of pitches, and you just see who has more home runs. And then you continue until you find a winner. The fans get to watch basically a walk-off home run, things like that. It would lead SportsCenter because it'd be exciting, and it was radical, extreme. People didn't like it, but last night, and maybe it's just for the All-Star games or whatever, but it showed how exciting it can be, and it was exciting. Was it not, Gator?
No, it was very exciting last night, and this is the part of where I said I thought baseball hit a home run with the All-Star game, and really with the All-Star festivities. I mean, I enjoyed the home run derby the night before, which normally I don't, but I did, and I'm still not entirely sure why I did, but I did. But with last night, it could have been a grand slam. If you're going to a swing-off, and then you're telling everybody that each team gets to select 3 batters, and each batter is going to get 3 swings, and then you total up the home runs at the end, and the team with the most home runs wins, great idea. Awesome. So when you tell me that, automatically I'm thinking, okay, here we go, American League, what are we going to do? Well, let's get Aaron Judge out there. Let's get Cal Raleigh out there, and let's get, I don't know, how about, Vlad Guerrero Jr.? That sounds like a good trio. And if you're in the National League, you're like, okay, here we go. Let's go Shohei Ohtani. Let's go with, maybe Manny Machado. And and Kyle Tucker, or you could even have said Kyle Schwarber, and you would have been a king if you did. But that's not how it was. Basically, what they did was, all right, everybody who started the game is basically in street clothes now, so they're going to be off limits. So we're going to go and look elsewhere, and we'll go with guys that were still in the lineup, and that's how we'll pick our three, which was fine. And it ended up being incredibly dramatic. And Kyle Schwarber, all three of his swings went the distance, and they didn't even need to go to their last hitter, which was Pete Alonso, by the way, which really would have been interesting because they do not like Pete Alonso in Atlanta, and yet he would have been trying to win it for the National League. He didn't have to because Kyle Schwarber did all he had to do, and that was awesome. But 248-539-9797 is a telephone number. I'm curious what the overall opinion was from the people out there about the All-Star game and about the All-Star week that they had. Just your general thoughts on the game, how it went. Are you triggered because the Tigers didn't perform all that well? I mean, 0 for 8, and then you had a couple pitchers that pitched 1 and 2/3 innings and they got hit. I mean, they give up 3 runs during that time. How that affects you? Are you panicked at all more now than you were going into the All-Star break? My feelings have changed ever so slightly. I'll get to that in a minute. But there were other things about the All-Star game that were brand new too, and we're wondering is this something that Major League Baseball should adopt right away? Now, whether you like the swing off or the automatic balls and strikes system, we can talk about it. Love to hear your thoughts. 248-539-9797. This is 97.1 The Ticket. You can hear the disgust in Tarek Skubal because he was mic'd up, which was kind of cool. Skubal goes in there and throws the first inning, gives up 3 hits, a couple of runs, also had a couple of strikeouts. But 2 of those 3 hits were so weak, and yet it matters, right? Shohei Ohtani, best in baseball, bloops a single to center field, and after reaching way across the plate to get it, good for them. They got it done there. And the American League almost pulled off an incredible upset for being down 6-0 going into the 7th inning. They were unable to finish the job. It went to a swing-off, which is, no, it's not something for adults. This is, they decided they were going to go with, thank you very much. They were going to go with an actual home run derby to settle the tie, which was kind of cool. Now, King, your idea was to actually do this during the regular season.
Yes, and I understand that was extreme and a bit radical, but I always fall back on this, Gator. As much as we love sports and we're all passionate about sports, in the end, it's ultimately entertainment. And I was just trying to find a way to make something more entertaining for baseball because at the time we were coming up with ideas just to help the sport, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think they'd adapt this for the regular season ever, but we do have ghost runners on second base. Now, if you would have told someone that 20 years ago, maybe they wouldn't believe you. I don't think they would. I think every sport tries to come up with ideas or things that change, the purists, that challenges the purists or the elitists, and because they're trying to make it better for everyone, more entertaining. And my idea was to do this during the regular season. But if you look at other sports, like I mentioned, hockey's got the shootout, right? Soccer does a shootout in the World Cup and tournaments like that. So it's not. I don't think it's as crazy as it once sounded. And we saw last night, it's entertaining.
It's not as crazy as it once sounded. You're right about that. You think about all the rule changes that have happened, really in all sports, but there's some dramatic rule changes just to baseball, where now the interleague play went from being a thing that you did 2 weeks out of the year to being something that's played throughout the season. You're playing every team. Now we have the DH in both leagues. It's no longer National League pitchers have to hit, which was dumb to have one league play by one set of rules and the other league play by the other set of rules. And then they decided they listened to people, right? People complain about baseball. The number one complaint about baseball was that it takes too damn long to finish a game. And they were right. Games are lasting well over 3 hours. You would have games to go over 4 hours. And then if they go to extra innings, good God, they could go forever. So they knew they had a problem, and they adjusted, and they decided they were going to fix that problem. They went with the ghost runner thing at second base and runner at second, nobody out, primarily speed things up. And then they coupled that, a year later with the let's make some other rule changes here. And I with the pitch clock. And so that speeds things up dramatically. And all of a sudden we've got games being played, like 2.5 hours. That's perfect. Love it. The NHL went from just playing a full-on, overtime. There was a full 5-minute overtime period with 5-on-5 hockey, and nope, we'll have ties. Okay, and then we want to change that. Let's go to 4-on-4, and then we'll add a shootout. And it still was taking too long, so then it went to 3-on-3. And 3-on-3 hockey is exciting, and you feel like you're always going to get a winner in overtime, and yet it doesn't happen. But I would imagine it's probably 75% of the time, maybe more, that you do end up with a winner in overtime before having to turn things over to the shootout. And no, this is not how they get decided in the playoffs. But that's not what we're asking for. We wanted things to be sped up during the regular season. So if baseball were to adopt this rule, is it too radical of a change in the regular season? It's more radical than having the ghost runner. And I'm not sure how people feel about the ghost runner. But I imagine the people who don't like the ghost runner are probably the old guard, King. And if the old guard doesn't like the ghost runner, they would hate the swing off. And yet I agree with you that it does add a ton of excitement. Everybody likes the home run derby. But even in the regular season, I definitely would lean, not even lean. I'd much prefer to have the ghost runner in the regular season for baseball games. However, for the All-Star game, I love the swing off. I thought that's a perfect time to do it. It's a rare occasion it would happen. You go ahead and you do it. you literally have all-stars competing in this competition, there it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and actually this has been in effect since 2022. It's just never come up the way they had to use it, and I'm so glad it finally happened. I think it was it 2022 or 2023? I didn't do the research real quick. It almost happened, and I was like, I came in the next day and I told you guys, you and Doug, I'm like, oh, the idea almost happened, guys. They almost had a swing off, and it didn't happen, but last night it did, and it was great. And I think it is perfect for all-star games. I understand the reservation for using it during regular seasons, but I think ultimately the idea is change can sometimes be bad, but sometimes it can be good too. So we should be open to things and new ideas.
Yeah, and last night everything was on display, right? You had different ways to watch the game because you had players who were mic'd up, and I think it's great. I look, they took a chance. They took a big swing by miking up a catcher and a pitcher in the first inning of the game, and I thought it failed miserably. But I love the effort. It failed because I think you got, Tarek Skubal's out there and he's a little nervous. He's just trying to get this game going. Cal Raleigh's not sure what he's supposed to say, and they're what are they going to? I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to throw, or the catcher's not going to say it because the batter's right there, and it just seemed awkward. And pitchers only got 15 to 18 seconds to get that pitch communicated to him to what he's going to do, and then throw the pitch. And when you've got somebody who's asking you a question on the fly, and the question takes 7 seconds, and now you've got 8 seconds to deliver this pitch. I just thought it was a disaster waiting to happen, and it didn't work out all that well when Skubal and Cal Raleigh were mic'd up. However, when they mic'd up Clayton Kershaw, I thought, wow, now that's how it works. But there's a KG veteran. Clayton Kershaw he's had his Hall of Fame career, been around a million years, and he was so relaxed with the situation that was the perfect time to use it. Now, in a regular season game, I do not want a pitcher mic'd up.
Well, I was just going to ask you that next, Gator. I mean, regular season, playoffs. I mean, because we're all about nowadays, everyone wants more access, right?
Right.
And doesn't Doug love the behind-the-scenes stuff? That's why he loves quarterbacks so much and Hard Knocks when it features the lines and things like that. And he loves the mic'd-up players. How would you feel, Gator, as a fan, Torres or Javi Baez being mic'd up during a game against, something in the playoffs and way more meaningful?
Yeah, I mean, look, they do it on Sunday Night Baseball with ESPN, and we'll see it Sunday night on the Skubal start. I don't know who they'll mic up during the game, but they do it. And I think it's great because it gives fans that inside access, which is great. And the last time they did it, it worked out perfectly. You had chatty players that were more than willing to talk, and they had good things to say. It wasn't just the, yes, no. Yeah, it's cool. You weren't getting those short answers. You actually had some good responses out there, and it was a lot of fun to see that kind of interaction. And I'm all for that during the regular season. When you get to the playoffs, you probably don't want that. I mean that's everything's more important. Miking guys up in between innings and then replaying that interview is fine. Or even if you're doing what they typically do during it, we even see it with our Tigers broadcast locally when they interview like one of the pitchers. Let's say they'll interview Skubal the day after his start. If he had a great start the night before, he'll talk, and they're much more relaxed in that situation. It's almost like having another guy in a booth. I like that. I like that a lot. But for playoffs, no, I don't want any. I don't think I want to have that. But last night, that was just one of the many things that they were able to pull off. It didn't work in one instance, and it worked brilliantly in another. Later on, they had somebody else mic'd up. I think over at first base, and they offered absolutely nothing. And it's okay. You see, they ain't all gems, as I like to say. You got to take your chances with it. But there were other major hits. I think the swing off was a big one. I'd love to hear from the people at 248-539-9797. You can send us a text as well at the same number. What did you think about the swing off with last night's game to decide who wins the All-Star game? And also, what did you think about the automated and automatic balls and strikes system, the ABS system, where the pitcher or the catcher or the batter can simply tap their head to get a review because they think it was a strike or they think it was out of the strike zone? 248-539-9797. That was on full display. Tarek Skubal was involved in the first ever challenge from a pitcher, and he won it. It was pretty cool. What did you think? We'll talk about it next year on 97.1 The Ticket. National League wins the All-Star game last night in a swing-off. The first ever in All-Star game history. It was tied after 9 innings. They don't go to extra innings in the All-Star game. What they do is a swing-off. It was a home run derby. If you didn't stay up for it, you missed out, frankly, because it was pretty cool. The American League selected their 3 batters. The National League selects their 3 batters. Each batter gets 3 swings, and then you total up the home runs, and whoever has more wins. And they alternated back and forth. So it ended up that Kyle Schwarber was the hero, the Phillies slugger, and the National League slugger ended up hitting home runs on all 3 of his swings, including the third one, which he swung from his knee, basically, and launched a line drive into the seats in right field. It was great. It was great. Brent Rooker got things going off for the American League. He hit 2 home runs in his 3 swings. And it looked like they were doing pretty well. Rosarena came up next for the American League anyway, and he hit 1, almost hit 2, but didn't hit 2. He only got 1, and that opened up the door for the National League and for Kyle Schwarber to be the hero, and he sure was the hero for the National League last night. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. Asking people, what was your opinion of it? Did you enjoy the All-Star game last night? Do you like the rule changes that they had? Because it was pretty cool, and there were some radical differences. We had the automatic balls and strike system last night, and Tarek Scoop was the first one to use it as a challenge, and for him, it worked. It worked great because it was a strike, and ended up getting a strike out on that call. I think they went. There were 3 challenges, and all 3 were overturned. So it showed that it worked, and there were only 3 challenges. I think there were only 3 challenges, which also tells you that the game was umpired pretty well. And one of those challenges, one was by, I think it was an inch, that it was outside the strike zone by an inch, and another one was called a strike, and it didn't even get an inch. It was on the extreme corner and barely nipped it, but enough to say, yep, that's a strike. But it was cool. They're using technology to the advantage of the rules of baseball. Do you like this or not? Is this something you want to see implemented as early as next season? The balls and strikes system, that is. The automated balls and strikes. Or do you want to see a swing-off? Would you like to see a swing-off replace the ghost runner at second base in extra innings? 248-539-9797 is a telephone number. I'm not the biggest fan of adapting, or I should say adopting the swing-off for the regular season. I think there's something to be said that you've got, the term extra innings is literally for baseball. And we use it for a bunch of different reasons outside of baseball. And I like having extra innings. I think the perfect vehicle to have the swing off is the All-Star game. I thought it was perfectly suited there. There's some ticket text coming in. So after this weekend's sweep and the way that our guys played last night, I feel like they need to add a starting pitcher and a closer. If not, I don't see how we beat some of these teams with big bats like the Dodgers. That's Mark in Huron Township. Well, they've beaten plenty of teams that have big bats like the Yankees or the Padres or the Giants. They've beaten lots of teams, lots of good baseball teams. They've split when it comes to winning a series against Seattle or losing a series against Seattle. The Tigers can compete with anybody. Now, the Dodgers lineup is special. Sure it is. And I'd love to shore that up, and I think they need to shore that up. But do I think that they have to add a starting pitcher? I'm open to it. I don't think they need to do it. But if you can find an upgrade, go ahead and find your upgrades. As far as the closer is concerned, yeah, I think they need to find a high-end bullpen arm. Somebody who gets tons of swings and misses. Somebody who can get that job done late in the game. And AJ Hinch doesn't like the term closer because it's the way that he uses his bullpen. It's not I'm going to save this guy for the 9th inning. It's I'm going to save my best back end pitching for the leverage situation that I need them. If the heart of the lineup is coming up in the 8th inning, he's going to throw his quote unquote closer in the 8th inning because he wants the best matchup. And I agree with that philosophy. I think that makes all the sense in the world. So you may not have, Will Vest may not have the greatest save total, but Will Vest is pitching like a really good closer. Are there better out there? Absolutely. Would I want to go out and get another arm or two in the bullpen? Yep. I've been advocating for that for over a month now. In fact, there was a name that was brought up. I saw yesterday, MLB Trade Rumors, mentioned that a pitcher, David Robertson, who pitched for years with the Yankees, he's like 40 years old, but did pitch last season and pitched well last season. Had an ERA of 3. I believe had like 92 strikeouts in 70 innings last year. And his whip his walks plus his per innings pitch was pretty low. But he's a free agent and hasn't signed with anybody. There are like a handful of veteran guys that hadn't signed, and J.D. Martinez was another one of those names that was mentioned. But David Robertson wouldn't cost you anything in terms of a prospect that you'd have to give up. Am I concerned that he's old or older? Yeah, a little concerned. But if the cost isn't anything and it doesn't work out, then you let him go. And there's really not much cost to it because he'd be signing for the rest of the season. And you're not going to give him. I don't think he's going to sign a 2 or 3 year deal at this point in his life. He still has something to give. Kick the tires, go send a scout out there, check him out, and see what's there. There were apparently the report said there were several teams that are interested in David Robertson, and I do think the Tigers should be one of those teams. Would that be the only move? Oh no, I'm all about going out and getting an actual major league pitcher. Somebody's pitching in the major leagues right now, getting that guy on this team. Yeah, I would love for the Tigers to go out and be aggressive with that. Be aggressive with Baltimore to try to get one of their arms. Be aggressive with Pittsburgh to try to get one of their arms. Be aggressive with Colorado or whomever. Get bullpen arms on this team and do it quickly. 248-539-9797. Joe is in Madison Heights. Joe, welcome to 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, Joe.
Good morning, fellas. What we need to do first is figure out, it's in the book, what the strike zone is from the top of the chest to the kneecap. That's the first thing. And you have to enforce it. Second of all, you hire what you call a strike zone coordinator. Every ballpark has one, and their job is to adjust the strike zone from the top of the chest or top rail and have AI figure the kneecap. That way there is no problems or
you're talking about with the you're talking about calibrating the lasers or whatever for the ABS system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. That's the big knock on it right now is that it's just a uniform strike zone, and that's not fair because whether you're Jose Altuve or Aaron Judge, it's the same strike zone, and it shouldn't be. It has to change. It needs to change batter by batter because each batter has a different strike zone.
Yep, and show it on the TV. We all love toys. Show it on the TV too. It'll automatically adjust. I mean, AI, they got to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure they have it. They have the ability to do it. They should have the ability to do it. And then, in the meantime, what we saw last night worked really well.
It really did. Yeah, I mean, that was bottom rail at 100 miles an hour. You're not going to hit that too often. But as far as the home run derby at the end of the game to decide the game, not in favor of it at all.
What about for an all-star game?
Yeah, that's fine because you want to rest players. Yeah, that's fine for keep it like it is for the all-star game, but regular season, absolutely not.
I agree with you, Joe, and thanks for the call. I think it's perfect for the all-star game. It's the fans have sat. The all-star game lasts forever anyway because you've got all the changes going on constantly, and they're taking pitchers out after facing 2 batters, and in regular season games you have to face at least 3, and it happens all throughout the game. And you get to the end of the game last night. There were a lot of empty seats in the stadium last night, and I'm sure those people are now pissed that they left their seats early because not only did you miss a comeback, you missed what was the first in history. And that was to see the swing-off with the home run derby, with the 3 players from each league getting their 3 swings and taking their chances. And the National League ended up winning it, setting home the National League fans happy. I thought it was a big success for Major League Baseball. And it wasn't just last night. It goes back to Monday night, too, with the home run derby and how that was. And a lot of these younger players competing in it, and you're getting to know them. So, like when Brent Rooker competes in the home run derby on Monday night, and then he's in the swing-off last night because he's in the game late, I felt pretty confident that Brent Rooker was going to get the job done, and he did. He had 2 home runs on his 3 swings because he had just done it the night before. Thought it was really cool. Some more ticket text coming in. This is why I don't like soccer. It's because you can have a tie game. Real sports don't end games in a tie game or a draw game. Yeah, well, they didn't last night. They had other rules. Let's expand on that. They went to the swing off and they got it done. In regular season games, you've got extra innings. Yeah. If this is why you don't like soccer, fair enough. I don't like tie games either. I mean, you play a game to win a game. It shouldn't end in a tie. But, when it gets to World Cup soccer, they don't end in ties. You go to the shootout, which is kind of weird as well. In the Olympic hockey, it goes to a shootout. And then it comes really strange with, you can have the same guy, or at least it was anyway, where you can have the same shooter shoot a bunch of times. It's what they did many years ago. And I don't know how many years ago it was, maybe within the last 10 years, it was how one of those games was settled. It was just strange seeing the same guys go out there with the breakaway to try to settle who was going to win that game. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. But getting back to that first text we got about with the weekend sweep and the way the guys played in the game last night from the Tigers, the combined 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts, and the Skubal and Mize giving up 3 runs between them in less than 2 innings of work. Are you more panicked about this team after the All-Star game than you were going in to the All-Star game? Where is your panic level, and how important is it that they get something done here to improve this team in the next 2 weeks? The trade deadline is July 31st. That is 15 days from now. They're going to get something done. They got to get it done quickly. We'll talk about it with you next. 248-539-9797. Same number to text. We'll talk about it next year with you on 97.1 The Ticket. And there was a lot of that last night. Whether it was Paul Skeens or Tarek Skubal or, good God, it felt like every pitcher that went out there was throwing 100 miles an hour. It was absolutely unbelievable. Mizorowski, the kid from Milwaukee, who some people were upset about because he's only had 5 starts in the major leagues. He's 4-1 on those starts. But some fans were bent out of shape because he was invited to the All-Star game. I mean, all he did was throw 102. Isn't that what we want to see? I want to see that. That was outstanding. Yeah, I thought it was great. The whole game itself, just everything about it was really well done. Letting the players go back to wearing the jerseys of their teams so they're more recognizable. I mean, this was something Major League Baseball needed to do, and they did. And now it's just better that way. I can appreciate that they want to have the National League uniforms and the American League All-Star uniforms and have them be the same. But, okay, that's fine. You want to do that for the Derby, I guess, that if you're going to have the 2 jerseys, have it for the Derby. The All-Star game is what everybody's tuning into. You want to know, like, he plays the Blue Jays. Oh, I got it. That's who that guy is. Oh, he's with Baltimore. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. I like that. Maybe it's just because I'm nostalgic about it, and it reminds me of watching All-Star games when I was a kid in the early 80s. But that's I think how it should be. And it felt like everybody was on board with it. You know, the announcers and everybody else, they were talking about, they mentioned the jerseys, kind of unprovoked, which was pretty cool. But there was a lot to like with last night's game and just the All-Star weekend. It's not even a weekend anymore. It's the Monday and Tuesday, really, with the Derby and the All-Star game itself. I thought it was great. Ticket text coming in. What would be the move for the Tigers to get Brent Rooker? The dude is a stud. Yeah, Brent Rooker it's a crazy story with Brent Rooker because he wasn't always a stud. He's 30 years old. He'll turn 31 in November. And he was a 38th round pick initially. Did not sign out of high school, and then was a first-round pick, ended up being the 35th pick overall in 2017. But he started off with Minnesota, did nothing with Minnesota, went to the Padres, and then Kansas City, did nothing there. And I mean literally nothing. Like he had like 260 at-bats with the teams other than Oakland. And during that time, he had a total of 10 home runs, all of them with Minnesota. Goes to Oakland in 2023, hits 30 home runs, makes the All-Star team. Last year, hit 39 home runs, 112 RBI, hit 293 with a 927 OPS. Wins a Silver Slugger Award. Not an All-Star last year, though, which is crazy. And then this year, he's played a league-high 98 games so far. He's got 20 home runs on this season, hitting 279 with 861 OPS. Yeah, he's great. Love to see him as a Detroit Tiger. The problem is that he's signed long-term, and not only is he signed long-term, he doesn't cost anything for the Athletics, really. His contract pays him $8 million next year, $14 million the year after that. Then it jumps to $15 million, $19 million, and $22 million. He is not a free agent until 2030. They have him for the next 5 seasons at a very reasonable cost. Now, to try to get someone like that, you'd have to give up an awful lot. I mean, you're talking probably at least one of your top prospects. Would the Athletics be willing to trade Brent Rooker for Max Clark? Probably not. They'd probably want way more than Max Clark. So you'd really start depleting who your players are in terms of your prospect pool. The other thing is you're talking about an outfielder. And certainly will be an upgrade over what they have in the outfield. I'm not opposed to it, but you'd got to really start offering up something big to get Brent Rooker. And I don't think Brent Rooker is going to be available for the reason I said first and foremost. He signed long-term at an extremely reasonable contract. For a guy who's going to have another 30 home run season likely this year, it'll be 3 straight. and you're getting him at roughly, $14 million a year for the next 5 years, would you trade him if you were a team that was getting ready to move into a brand new ballpark in a couple years in Vegas? Probably not. But I like the idea. Certainly bring it up. He's one of those guys, and one of the things one of the topics I had for the show today was, what all-star do you want the Tigers to go get? And I applaud people for looking at the Athletics because it's not a good baseball team, but they do have talent. They're just not a good team right now. They don't have the pitching, but they do have some bats, and Rooker is one of those bats without question. More ticket text coming in at 248-539-9797. Has nothing to do with the All-Star game. I've held this opinion for a while, but I do feel like this team has a collapse in the second half. We've got maybe 3 above average bats and maybe 2 above average pitchers. It's almost like only Green, Glaber, and Skubal were the ones who actually deserved to be All-Stars. Mize, Javi, and Z-Mac didn't belong. Well, I would push back on that a lot. I think the team that they had last year, you could say they had 3, maybe only 3 above average players on the team, or above average bats and a couple of above average pitchers. I think you can make that case last year. This year, that's not the case. This year, when you look at the league OPS, which is around 715, the Tigers have a number of players in the lineup that are above average when it comes to OPS, which is on base percentage plus slugging percentage, which is the new hotness in metrics. Dylan Dingler is above average. Javi Baez is above average. Kerry Carpenter above average. Colt Keith above average. Gleyber Torres is way above average. Now we're getting to guys that have above an 800 OPS, starting with Gleyber Torres. Spencer Torkelson. As much as you want to say Zach McKinstry didn't belong in the All-Star game, Zach McKinstry has an 836 OPS. He deserved to be in the All-Star game. He was the perfect addition for an All-Star team because he can play literally anywhere in the field, and you could bat him anywhere in the lineup. He's the perfect addition, late addition, as an All-Star. Now, do I think that's who he is moving forward? No, I don't. I'm amazed at what he's done, and I hope he continues to do what he does, what he's done this year. But his track record would suggest otherwise, at least in the major leagues, his track record suggests otherwise. In the minor leagues, he actually did pretty well. Riley Green is definitely above average. And then you got a small sample size with Wencel Perez, but he has done way better this year than what he did last year. So I would push back on that. And as far as the pitchers are concerned, I do think the Tigers have more than 2 above average pitchers. I think obviously Tarek Skubal is one of the best in baseball. Casey Mize has pitched very well this year. Reese Olson is I think he has 11 starts, but he's pitched very well in those 11 starts. Like to see him pitch a little bit deeper into games now, but in the 11 starts, his earned run average is still below 3 at 2.95. And Jack Flaherty has not had a good season with the Tigers this year. It's a 4.65 ERA. That is well below average, but he's showing signs that he's breaking out of it lately, and hopefully he's a big part for this team moving forward. We talked a little bit about it yesterday with Stoney, asking which player you want on this Tigers to step it up and be that guy. Who needs to be that guy in the second half? And I thought we had a pretty good combination of Parker Meadows and Jack Flaherty. If Parker Meadows and Jack Flaherty end up being the players in the second half that they were last year in the second half, then this team will be just fine. Because you'd be getting a Parker Meadows that hit 300, that ran as well as anybody in baseball, and that played elite defense in center field. And Jack Flaherty, you'd be getting a guy who, went from having a great season with the Tigers to continuing to have that great season with the Dodgers and winning a World Series. Those two guys, if those two guys stepped up their games, I'd feel great about the Tigers. And assume that others would basically hold serve where they're at. 248-539-9797 is a telephone number. Same number to text as well. We got some more ticket texts coming in. My son played an independent pro league in Colorado last year in the Pioneer League. And they're Major League Baseball partners, and they've experimented with the ABS and the Swingoff. It's pretty cool. I like it this year's play in the American Association in Milwaukee, and they do not have it. He says that his son playing in the American Association in Milwaukee, and they don't have it. yeah, I love the ABS system. They use it in the minors. They used it in spring training this year. And I get it. Not everybody saw spring training games, but if you did, you'd notice that they had the system in play, and it works. And I love it for two reasons. First of all, you're holding the umpires accountable. So whatever grudge they may have against players, you can't have it because tap your helmet and then you're showing them up because you were way wrong in that. I told you were wrong, and now it's proven. The other thing is it's going to make the umpires better because they know that they can't stray like that. They have to really pay extra attention. For the most part, umpires do a great job. But it can always be better. And if you've got technology that helps you make it better, why not? Tennis does it. Which, by the way, is another area where baseball needs to implement the lasers and all this, is down the lines. So that you can determine if a ball is fair or foul when it lands, on the line. If it kicks up chalk, you'd think it's a fair ball. It's not always going to be that way, but hey, there have been a couple instances this year where it would have been nice to have cameras right down the line, perhaps with the laser technology that they use in tennis that determine if a ball or a serve is in or out. Do the same thing in baseball. Love to see them add it like that. The swing-off is perfectly fine for the All-Star game, but it's too gimmicky for the regular season. Imagine your season ends because you lose a swing-off. I agree, but I think for the All-Star game, it's great. And when Kang brought this up years ago, it was during the context of a conversation we were having about how to make baseball appeal to the younger fan, because it only appealed to, really, the demographics were so old for baseball, and games were taking forever. And just looking for creative ways to get out of it. And King actually came up with the swing-off idea. And it does work perfectly in the All-Star game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. Same number to text. You want to comment on the All-Star game. What's your panic level with the Tigers? Has it changed at all after we've seen the All-Star game, after we saw the Tigers go 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts and Skubal and Mize combined to give up 3 runs in an inning and 2/3? Are you more panicked now than you were going into the All-Star game? We can talk about that. And also, we got rookies reporting at Lions camp this afternoon. Got some football stuff we're going to get to next here on 97.1 The Ticket.
Brought to you by Builders First Source. The Red Wings posted that their home opener will be Thursday, October 9th versus the Canadiens. The full release set to come out later today as well. News breaking right now that ex-wing Joe Veleno is likely heading to the Canadiens this season. He played 18 games for the Blackhawks last year. General Mills Cereal announced today that Amon-Ra St. Brown's headstand celebration touchdown will be featured on their Honey Nut Cheerios boxes beginning in August. According to On3, Tennessee basketball is finalizing a deal to play an exhibition against Michigan this October in Ann Arbor. The Tigers are off until Friday. They'll be back on the road against the Rangers this weekend. Tarek Skubal started the All-Star game yesterday, throwing just one inning, so he's expected to pitch again Sunday. Skubal was one of the many mic'd up live yesterday. He has thoughts for MLB in the future on that. It looks like the selling has already begun for the Pirates. They currently have the fourth worst record in baseball, and today sent second baseman Adam Frazier to the Royals. The 33-year-old has a .255 average this season with minimal doubles power. Really bad last year with Kansas City, but has been better since May, hitting over .300. At the Corwell Health Sports Desk, I'm Jeremy Otto from Oregon at 97.1 The Ticket or Odyssey.com.
Welcome back to the Karsch and Anderson program here on 97.1 The Ticket. Gator and Kang with you, taking your calls at 248-539-9797. Same number to text us as well. Talk a lot about the All-Star game in the first hour of the show, and for good reason. I thought that Major League Baseball did an excellent job over the past two nights with the Home Run Derby, and again with the All-Star game last night. I mean, just some other highlights with it. I thought in addition to what we've talked a lot about with the automatic balls and strike system and the swing-off to determine the winner, the Hank Aaron tribute was great. It really was, having it projected on the field, and the anniversary of him breaking the home run record by Babe Ruth with home run number 715. That was amazing. I thought when you had Tarek Skubal there in the update talking about having the pitchers mic'd up, and he's like, you got to give me more time. Yeah, because when you got a runner on base, you only have 15 seconds. And it's difficult. It worked much better with Clayton Kershaw. I think he was much more laid back about it and was just really kind of enjoying the All-Star experience more than anything else. And he was kind of having fun with it. And even to the extent knowing that it was ridiculous to have a pitcher mic'd up during that situation, but it was still pretty cool. Ticket text coming in. Skubal got screwed with having a microphone when they're trying to pitch. To be fair, every single pitcher should have to deal with it. If you want to put a microphone on an outfielder, that's fine. Yeah, I agree. For the All-Star game, it's fine. You do whatever you want in the All-Star game. It doesn't matter to me. You try all this stuff out in the All-Star game. But in a regular season game, I don't want a pitcher mic'd up. I don't want a catcher mic'd up. You want to mic up the first baseman or a shortstop or an outfielder, I think that's fine. The strike view was great. Love seeing the umpires get put in their place. The swing off is too much for me. Slam it. Jam the ABS. That's from Greg. I prefer the ghost runner over the swing off in the regular season since it's closer to how the overall game is played. However, the number one benefit the swing off would have in the regular season is that the biggest stars would probably still be in the game to hit. I said the same thing as Gator. It would have been off the charts dramatic last night had Ohtani and Judge hit in the swing-off last night. That's from Jeff in Bay City. Yeah, that was obviously not the case. They went with players that were still in the game at that point. I mean, all the starters, some of them were in street clothes last night. I mean, they actually flashed over to Tarek Skubal, and he's got like a sweater on, just hanging out watching the game. Which has to be super cool as well.
I think some were actually on the way to the airport, Gator.
It may have been.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like they're just heading back.
We don't play games till Friday. It's like, we're going to get out of Atlanta that badly, but I don't know. But I thought everything. The other thing I loved about it last night, when they had the overhead views of the stadium, I talked a lot about the stadium yesterday, how much I really want to see it. But that whole area, when it's lit up, was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. They did an A1 job in building that stadium and the area around it. It just looked super cool to have the hotel that's right there and everything else. I really liked it. I love the automatic strike zone. I like the swing off pretty well, too. It moved right along with an entertaining game in general. The miking up of the players helped as well. Yeah, I don't think – was there anybody who didn't like it last night? Like if you tuned in to watch the All-Star game, did you come away going, oh, this thing is garbage? I thought it hit on all cylinders. It was like, to me, it was a home run. It would have been a grand slam if you had Judge and Ohtani competing in this swing off, but I'm fine with how it worked, and I understood why they did what they did. Well, great job by baseball. And now I can't wait for the season to restart on Friday night with the Tigers in Texas. And curious to see how this team responds, because going into the All-Star break, they weren't exactly screaming with momentum. It was bad momentum, if it was anything, with a 4-game losing streak, and the way that they got handled by Seattle and Cal Raleigh with all the home runs that he hit. And then the performance last night, I'm not going to put too much stock in the Tigers going 0 for 8. Some tough matchups all around. Look, it's an all-star game. Everything's a tough matchup. But it felt like Riley Green, was going lefty every time. They weren't good matchups for our guys and for a lot of guys. But I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me too much that the batters went 0 for 8. It doesn't bother me that Skubal gave up 2 runs in the first inning of the game. He didn't give up hard contact. He gave hard contact to Ketel Marte's double, but the 2 guys were on base for that. I mean, those were some weak hits. Good for Ohtani to get the hit, but it was just a bloop single to center field where he reached way across home plate, which was that close to being strike 3, but he got a piece of it and enough of it because he's great, and put it over into center field. And then Acuna hit the ground ball to second that just dribbled to second base, and by the time Torres fielded it, Acuna had already crossed the bag. So I don't fault him too much for that. Casey Mize gave up the home run. You don't like to see that, but he also had recorded a strikeout. Not the greatest performance from the Tigers from a statistical standpoint, but it's an exhibition game. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what happens on Friday, and has that shaken your confidence at all? And, I asked that question to the people at 248-539-9797. Are you at all more panicked or less panicked than you were going into the All-Star game? And I wasn't that panicked going into the All-Star game. And coming out of it, I'm still not all that panicked, but I would say just the slightest more. And the only reason it's the slightest more is because Tigers had the 2 best starting pitchers out there, and they both gave up runs. And their previous starts over the weekend, they gave up runs. And they got hit hard in those games. So even though Skubal didn't get hit hard last night, gave up the double, which was a hard hit ball, I'll give him that, but the other 2 were not. But it was a hard hit double. A little concerned. I don't worry too much about Tarek Skubal. I think he'll be fine. But Casey Mize got hit over the weekend and then gave up a home run in the game last night. I'm a little concerned there. Just a little bit. Ever so slightly more. Now, to the point where I'm saying they got to get another starting pitcher? No, I'm not there. I think they need bullpen arms. And I'm open to a discussion about a starting pitcher. But I do want to see how things play out here. And they've got 2 weeks of baseball to play before the trade deadline comes to determine what exactly they are going to do. Do they need to add a starting pitcher? What are the reports going to be? Is Alex Cobb ever going to pitch for the Tigers this year? Is Reese Olson going to continue to pitch better? Is Jack Flaherty going to be better? And we'll see how the aforementioned Skubal and Mize bounce back. Is Cater Montero going to be part of this rotation moving forward? Are they going to do pitching chaos, which has not worked in the first half of the season, but worked brilliantly last year, but it hasn't worked out? Are they going to add more bullpen arms to the mix? I imagine they will, but we'll see about that. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. Got some rankings in the NFL regarding quarterbacks. There was a quote about our quarterback, and there are some over-under totals regarding our quarterback. We'll talk about that next here. 97.1, The Ticket. Hey, is your garage door making a lot of weird noises? Is it maybe sluggish and not going up and down as quickly as you'd like it to? Well, if you don't know what to do, I'm going to help you out. Call the folks over at Precision Garage Door Service today because they are the experts and they will get your garage back to working in tip-top shape. Call them today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR. You can visit their website at precisiondoormi.com and schedule an appointment online for a time that works for your schedule. I know all this firsthand. They came out to my house years ago. I was having a problem with my garage door. Just was working really slowly. They diagnosed the problem. They fixed it on the spot because those experts know what they're doing, and I love that about them. And if you need new garage doors, Precision is the one to call. Again, 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit the webpage at precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment. All right, so we've got rookies getting ready to report today to Lions training camp, and the veterans come in on Sunday, I believe, and we got full-on workouts next week. There'll be a couple days in August, so actually we're going to be out there as a show broadcasting from there, from a couple of the joint practices they're going to have. Very much looking forward to the start of football season. I think, everybody is starting to get that itch now, and, when you start hearing reports of who's coming into training camp early and whatnot, we're all ready to go here. And yet there are some big question marks coming into training camp that we will get to. But first, I wanted to address the quarterback. And congratulations to Jared and his wife, Kristen, as they welcome a baby girl the other day to the family. That's awesome. Hoping everyone's happy and healthy. And I look forward to talking to Jared Goff again this year. But ESPN did a ranking of the quarterbacks. They ranked the NFL top 10 quarterbacks for 2025. It's an article from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN, where they end up talking with league executives, coaches, and scouts to help rank the players. And it's always interesting to see, where they're ranked, and we love our rankings here as fans and broadcasters and whatnot. And for years, it seemed like when it came to Stafford or Goff, that getting into the top 10 area, people were reluctant to put quarterbacks there. Well, as Goff has been on top of his game for a couple of years now, or three years or so, he is well deserving to be in the top 10. The question is, how high in the top 10 will he be? Now, the rankings, I'll just go through them quickly. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. The lowest ranking that he got in this survey was 4th. The highest was obviously number 1. Last year, he was rated number 1 as well. Number 2, Josh Allen, Buffalo. Same thing. Lowest ranking was number 4. Highest ranking was number 1. Last year, he was rated number 3. The number 3 quarterback, Joe Burrow. Lowest ranking was 5. The highest ranking was 1. Last year, Joe Burrow was number 2. I'm going to pause here for a second just because watching quarterback on Netflix, if you haven't watched it yet, watch it. It's great. I shouldn't tell you what to do, but if you can, I recommend it. Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow all featured in the season of quarterback, which goes back and documents what happened last year. And after watching that, I felt like that the show was trying to promote Joe Burrow as being maybe the best quarterback in the National Football League. And after watching it, it's hard to disagree. Any problem Cincinnati has as a team or as an organization has very little to do with Joe Burrow, except for maybe how much he's getting paid and them not being able to allocate money elsewhere. But Joe Burrow last year threw for just under 5,000 yards, had 43 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That offense was outstanding that he led. And he had a great year. And yeah, I think he is quite worthy. And thus concludes my effusive praise of Joe Burrow. Number 4 in this list, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore. Highest ranking was number 1. The lowest ranking was 6. Last year, he finished 4th. So this is interesting to me that the top 4 quarterbacks all got at least 1 vote to be the top quarterback in this ranking system. Number 5, Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, the rookie quarterback from Washington last year. He's only 24. Highest ranking on this is number 5. The lowest ranking is number 10. Obviously, it wasn't available last year. Wasn't eligible last year. But he had himself one hell of a season. Jaden Daniels was an awful lot of fun to watch play. Threw for over 3,500 yards in his rookie season, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, had a quarterback rating of 100.1 last year, and just seemed to get better and better as the season went on. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Number 6 is Matthew Stafford. Stafford's highest ranking was 4. The lowest ranking was unranked. Last year, he was 5th. He's 37 years old. Number 7 is Justin Herbert. Highest ranking for Justin Herbert is 3rd. Love to know why somebody has him at 3rd. Lowest ranking was unranked. Last year, he was 6th. I bring him up, and I find him to be kind of a polarizing quarterback. Under 4,000 yards passing last year, had 23 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. The 3 interceptions part is fantastic. But when you're in charge of an offense and you only lead them down the field for 23 touchdown passes, it's not enough. You're not doing enough in my mind. I think he's got a ton of talent, but he's just not doing enough. Will he take a big leap this year with Jim Harbaugh? I suspect he probably will. I'm just surprised he's ranked as high as he is, up at 7, because it just doesn't have the overall game just yet in my mind. He can absolutely vault high, but I think to have him at 7 is too high in my mind. And number 8 is Jared Goff. Highest ranking for him was 5th. Lowest ranking, he was unranked. Last year, he was 9th. And here's what it says about Jared Goff. It says 3 years ago, heck, even 2, placing Goff in the top 10 was a bold move. Now it's rare to find a ballot without his name on it. Goff appeared on 82% of the top 10 submissions. Quote, he's developed into one of the game's best pure passers, a veteran NFC defensive coach said. He doesn't turn the ball over like he used to. He's a reliable quarterback with a real arm. He's not just a drop-back passer who makes stuff happen, although the word stuff was not used. He's become more than that. It goes on to say Goff ranked second in the NFL in yards per attempt last year, 8.6, threw for the second most yards in the league at 46.29. He was especially good on play action, completing 75.4% of his play action passes. Led the NFL in the categories of nearly 2,000 yards passing and 15 touchdowns in a play action situation. Coming from an air raid offense at Cal, Goff entered the league as a rhythm and timing thrower. He struggled when pass rushers disrupted that timing. He's countered that weakness with elevated his game. Quote, he's improved in his ability to reset his feet and deliver the ball accurately, and it's changed his career, a veteran AFC scout said. The coaching staff in Detroit gave him a greater sense of calm in the pocket, and he's capitalized on it. It goes on to say, lastly, Goff's success has come with two of the game's best play callers, Sean McVay and now Bears head coach Ben Johnson. Now he must prove that he can do it without them, and his career adaptability suggests that he'll be up to the challenge. Okay, a lot to work with there, and I do think it's interesting when people bring up the coordinators that he's worked with and the play callers and all that. It just mentions Sean McVay and Ben Johnson. What it doesn't mention is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell gets no credit at all from national media when it comes to creating this offense, which Dan Campbell created. If you recall, when Anthony Lynn was demoted from being the offensive coordinator halfway through that first season, Dan Campbell took over the play calling and then also kind of called out publicly Jared Goff and said our quarterback's got to play better. Took him under the wing, took the offense under his wing, and Jared Goff was much better from that moment on. Yes, the following season turns things over to Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson learned under the tutelage and guidance of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's got to get some credit for this. And if national media doesn't give it to him, I'll give him credit. I'll scream from the rooftops. Dan Campbell helped this along. Was he the number one force? Maybe not. I'll give Ben Johnson plenty of credit, but I think to ignore what Dan Campbell did is a mistake. So this is where a lot of criticism comes in when it comes to Jared Goff, or even the Lions, I guess, for that matter, is people are concerned about how are the Lions supposed to be as good as they were last year when they don't have Ben Johnson, let alone, losing the defensive coordinator as well. Well, having John Morton come in as the new offensive coordinator who worked with Dan Campbell here in Detroit that first year and also worked with Ben Johnson, I don't have much of a concern. There is a concern. I am curious to see how different it's going to be, if different at all. But I suspect it's not going to be that different. The difference may come just because the offensive line is different. That's where my concern is. It's not with losing a coordinator. It's losing your all-world center. That's where I have the concern. Pete Schrager from ESPN as well, and he's on the Get Up show, when he was talking about Jared Goff, and he's done this a couple of times, he has called Jared Goff the most pivotal player of the NFL season. And he says he's got all the accolades, the Pro Bowls, the whole thing. They were the number one seed of the NFC, and yet Jared Goff lost in the divisional game to Jaden Daniels, and then basically has his entire coaching staff rated from other teams. This is from the Free Press. Goes on to say, to me, the biggest difference is whether Jared Goff is that dude or Jared Goff is that guy that so many have doubted over the course of his career. What does Jared Goff have to prove? It goes on to quote Dan Orlovsky, who kind of countered that. And Dan Orlovsky said, what does Jared Goff have to prove to solidify the type of quarterback that he is and has been? A guy that has not had a losing season, but once since his rookie year. There's a lingering doubt about the type of player he is, as he asked with a question. There's always going to be people that are doubting the quarterback. That's just the nature of the position. And here in Detroit, Lions fans have it down to a T on how to dress down the quarterback. They can build him up, and at the same time, they'll take him right down. And the quarterback, no matter how good they are, it always seems to be a polarizing figure. It was like that with Matthew Stafford, and it's like that with Jared Goff. Although it feels like it's less polarizing with Jared Goff than it was with Stafford, there are still people that come out and will say disparaging things about our quarterback, even though his name is chanted at every sporting event, every live concert, in grocery stores, wherever you hear the chant of Jared Goff. But my question at 248-539-9797 is, after hearing what the ranking is from people in the NFL, that they put Jared Goff as the 8th best quarterback in the NFL, do you think that's fair, slotting him there? And have you, as a fan, have you come to terms with the fact that he is a top 10 quarterback? Or do you just kind of scoff at that and say, nope, not going to happen? They lost the coordinator. They lost their center. They're shuffling the whole offensive line around. There's no way it's going to be the same. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. I've got great confidence in Jared Goff. It's not just because we talk to him every week. I think there's evidence that shows why you should have confidence in Jared Goff. There are concerns that I have, but it's not with the quarterback. It doesn't start with the quarterback. It starts with what's up front. We'll talk about it next year on 97.1 The Ticket. On the eve of training camp here, actually no longer the eve, I guess, although maybe they're not practicing today. They're just reporting. Rookies are reporting, and then veterans report on Sunday. So I suppose the workouts will probably begin tomorrow with the rookies, and then I would imagine that either Sunday or Monday with the full team. But just saw a bunch of things coming together here regarding quarterbacks. They had the ESPN quarterback rankings. Pete Schrager saying that he thinks that Jared Goff is the most pivotal player in the NFL this year. And then also they had these the odds came out for passing yards, touchdowns, and interceptions, which I thought was interesting. The totals came out for betting purposes. And when it comes to quarterbacks. So got some stuff to look through with that. I mentioned that Goff is number 8 in this ranking of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. When ESPN did this survey with coaches, players, and also executives. And this is what they determined. To round out the top 10, Jalen Hurts was 9. His highest rating was a 6th, and his lowest was unranked. Last year, he was honorable mention. I would imagine he deserves to be higher than that. He's just a winner. And number 10 was Baker Mayfield. His highest ranking was 5th. His lowest ranking was unranked, and last year he was unranked as well. The honorable mention went to C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love. And I thought this was interesting, too. Others receiving votes, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bo Nix, the rookie. Now, I find it interesting because Dak Prescott in there from the Cowboys, and I saw another article this week where somebody was redoing the, I think it was the 2017 draft, where Goff was taken first overall. And if you were to redo it, the number one player would have been Dak Prescott. And here it is, executive coaches and players, they only have him receiving votes. He didn't even finish in the top 10, and Goff did. But 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. As we talk about this, I hate to rip open that scab of the quarterback and how people pick on the quarterback. I think we've got a really good quarterback here. And I think by and large, Lion fans probably feel the same. And I'd like to work up some real, hatred or whatever it is for these rankings, but I think 8 is pretty fair. It's interesting that the 2 quarterbacks ahead of him are Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert. I mean, if anything, I think Goff could be rated higher, just a little bit. I think Jalen Hurts deserves to be ranked higher as well. And I would probably slide down Justin Herbert just because Justin Herbert hasn't done anything yet. He's had a couple of really good statistical years, but last year his offense didn't do enough. I believe he's made it to the playoffs, but has not won in the playoffs. I think they lost to Jacksonville in the playoffs. So he doesn't have a playoff win. Stafford won the Super Bowl. And ever since Stafford won the Super Bowl with the Rams, it feels like he's getting carte blanche. And yeah, you're a top 10 quarterback now. Or before, nobody would even say that. But now, people are saying that. Just kind of interesting. As far as the totals are concerned, from Vegas, the number of passing yards they have for him, the over-under total is 3,900 and a half. It's the guy who threw it for over 4,600 yards last year. The touchdown total for Jared Goff is at 28 and a half for a guy who threw last year, I believe, with 37 touchdowns a year ago. The interceptions is set at 11 and a half. Last year, he threw 12 interceptions. If I were a betting man, and sometimes I am, I would probably take the over on the passing yards because I think that's a low total considering it's basically 700 yards lower than what he threw last year. And I think they're going to throw quite a bit this year. The 28 and a half touchdowns, I would probably take the over on that. He had 37 last year. I think he's a guy who's probably going to be in the 30 touchdown range for a while here. The 11 and a half interceptions, it's a tough number. I probably wouldn't even touch it. But, Kang, when you look at these numbers, 3,900 yards passing, 28 and a half touchdowns, do you think Goff will exceed those numbers?
It's hard to say because I don't want to absolutely ignore the fact that they're losing Ben Johnson, of course. But, like you've said many times on these airwaves, Dan Campbell, you believe in him a lot. He was the one who kind of started the orchestration of switching over the offense to what it is now when he, demoted Anthony Lynn. And I think Goff at this point in his career also, you have to give him his due respect. It's he is a better quarterback than when he got here. And he took the things from Ben Johnson, and hopefully, him and John Morton will work well together on what they want and what they envision. So with that being said, I think the development of Gibbs and the young weapons are going to help him hit the over on those numbers. So I know there might, and I say might be some, I think at least to start the season, a chemistry issue maybe with the offensive coordinator when they get on the same page. But I think when this thing gets rolling with Gibbs and LaPorta and St. Brown, and don't forget JMO. I'm big on JMO. You know that already. I think his ceiling, he hasn't even come close to reaching it yet. I think the numbers will be the over. I'd take the over.
Yeah, you bring up Jahmyr Gibbs, which is interesting because Jahmyr Gibbs said recently that they're going to split him out quite a bit this year, which is interesting, adding him as a wideout in the mix, and we'll see how much they actually do of that. But the fact that it's probably going to be more than what we've seen, that just adds another weapon to the passing game. I agree with you 100% on Jamison Williams. They've really just kind of scratched the surface and messed around last year and had a 1,000-yard year. He's a real weapon who improved dramatically year to year, and we'll see what kind of big step he can take this year. I think with me and JMO, it's really just Lions finding ways to use him as best they can, and they started to do that last year where they were having him run these drag routes across the field, and you can't keep up with him. And as long as you can protect the quarterback just long enough, he's going to be open. And he's just a big play waiting to happen. They're throwing the ball downfield more, and they're starting to hit those shots more, which is great. And then you've got one of the steadiest receivers in football, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And last year you had LaPorta, who was banged up last year, and his numbers took a little bit of a drop. But I expect those numbers to come right back up this year. Of course, everything is dependent on health. And I think the health starts with the offensive line. How healthy are they going to be? But it's also the weapons. Weapons have to stay healthy. And I would agree with Pete Schrager in this. I do think that he might be the most pivotal player in the NFL. He is so valuable to his team because the backup is completely untested. And you go to the other great teams, the Philadelphia Eagles, it's a great team, obviously Super Bowl champions. If Jalen Hurts gets hurt, they still have Saquon Barkley that they can lean on. They still have that great offensive line that they can lean on. They've got other areas that they can do it. With the Lions, there's just question marks, and probably bigger question marks than most. So that's why I tend to agree with him. The part I didn't agree with Pete Schrager was where he was saying that says Jared Goff lost in the divisional round to Jaden Daniels and then basically had his entire coaching staff rated from the other teams. And the part I take exception is to his lost to Jaden Daniels. Jared Goff did not have a good game at all in that playoff game against the Commanders. But I think the national media conveniently forgets what happened to the Lions defense. I mean, yeah, the Lions lost and the offense didn't do enough, but didn't the defense give up, 40 points or close to it? I think there was a pick six in there, so I want to take one of those touchdowns away, but it was a lot of points that they gave up. And I imagine the defense is fired up about that. And hopefully they can stay healthy and provide more protection for the offense if the offense is sputtering. Because you go back to that game last year they had against Houston where the offense turned the ball over possession after possession after possession. I think Goff ended up with 4 interceptions in that game. They were down by 13, I think, going into the third quarter. And then the defense pitches a shutout the rest of the way, allowing the offense a chance to get back into the game and just keep doing what they were doing. And they did. They got back in the game, and they won the game, in large part because the defense was there for them. We'll see what kind of impact that they make there. But it is training camp. There's some interesting stories coming out of training camp, or going into training camp, I should say. And what has to happen and what's the number one storyline? We'll talk about that. What do you think the number one storyline is for the Lions heading into training camp. 248-539-9797. Same number to text. We'll get to your text and calls next here on 97.1 The Ticket. Welcome back to the Carson Anderson program here on 97.1 The Ticket. Gator taking your calls today at 248-539-9797. Same number to text us as well. We've been talking a lot of baseball in the first hour. The All-Star game I thought was a rousing success. The home run derby, the game itself, I just thought it was a home run. Could have been a grand slam, but it was a home run nonetheless. And I will take it. I think there's a lot to take out of that. a lot that I'd like to see moving forward. The automatic balls and strike system, I think, was a huge hit. It was used sparingly last night. I think what that system does is it puts more pressure on the umpires to make the right call, because they don't want to be embarrassed. Not at all. But during the course of games, and we've seen some ridiculous strike calls or some ridiculous calls for pitches that were clearly in the strike zone that were called balls. So I think having the system in place is nothing but a benefit to all of baseball. And if it upsets the umpires, oh well, be better. And we can appreciate you for what you are for the most part, which is really good. But on occasion, you're going to miss, and it's okay. Sometimes you're just blocked from the view, and you can't see the ball break as much as it did, or you think it broke more than it did, or whatever the case is. I thought the ABS worked last night, and the swing off in the All-Star game, brilliant. It was a great way to finish the game. If you didn't watch it, the swing off is basically a home run derby. Instead of going to extra innings and it's a tie game, each team was able to pick 3 representatives that would get 3 swings to try to hit home runs. And they would tally the numbers at the end. Whoever hit more home runs wins. And they alternated back and forth. So it was kind of like, in a way, it was like the shootout in hockey. And it just fell in favor of the National League. Kyle Schwarber got up there and belted 3 home runs in his 3 swings. And it just put all the pressure on Aranda in the American League. Aranda needed to get 1 home run. He was unable to do it. And the National League ends up winning it. They didn't even have to go to they still would have had one more batter, which would have been Pete Alonso. We got a Pete Alonso topic we want to get into in the noon hour, which is crazy. But we won't get into that. But nonetheless, a great All-Star game last night. I thought it was a great All-Star game last night. A lot to digest from that, a lot to like from that, and some not to like the Tigers. 0 for 8 in the game, 3 strikeouts in the game. Our 2 all-star pitchers combined to give up 3 runs in an inning and 2/3. The numbers look bad, but it really wasn't as bad as what the numbers looked when they give up those 3 runs. But nonetheless, the numbers are the numbers. And I think some fans that were panicked already going into the All-Star break with the 4 straight losses, I think that some fans are coming out of the All-Star game and seeing the Tigers' performance last night and saying, yeah, see, this is why I'm even more concerned. They've got a couple more days off. They'll get back to baseball on Friday in Texas, and we'll see how things go there. So a lot of baseball going on, but we're also talking about the Lions and specifically the quarterback, Jared Goff, and what your biggest storyline is going into training camp. And a lot of people talk about the quarterback. A lot of stuff comes out at this time of the year, right? You had the rankings come out, the top 10 quarterback rankings from ESPN, where they get some information from a survey that they do with coaches and executives and players, and they spit out what they think is the top 10. Jared Goff was number 8 among the quarterbacks in the top 10. I don't think it's too far off. I'm not complaining too much about it. Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert were both ranked ahead of him. Not sure they should have been, but I don't really care if they are. It's just slightly ahead. I think it's great that Jared Goff is finally getting his due that he's deserving of being a top 10 quarterback. And frankly, so was Matthew Stafford, which is interesting because when Matthew Stafford was here as a Lion, a very polarizing figure, and many people thought that Stafford was just kind of middle of the pack quarterback, and now he's elevated to the number 6 quarterback in all of football at the age of 37. Also have some totals out there for Jared Goff. In the Vegas totals, they have it set for over-unders for passing yards at 3,900 yards, touchdowns at 28.5, and interceptions at 11.5. Now, they also have some interesting totals for the wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 107.5 receptions, 1,105 yards receiving, and 8.5 touchdowns. Jamison Williams at 56.5 receptions, 900 yards receiving, and 5.5 touchdowns. And Sam LaPorta, 65.5 receptions, 700 yards receiving, 6.5 touchdowns. I think I'd probably go over on all of the LaPorta totals because Sam was hurt last year. I expect him to be a security blanket for Jared Goff this year. JMO, I like the over on the receptions and also the yards. I think he's going to catch more passes this year, and the 56.5 just doesn't seem like that's enough for Jameson Williams. I think they're going to target him a lot. And the 900 yards, I mean, if you're going to target JMO, if he's going to catch 60 passes on the season, let's say, yeah, I expect him to have another 1,000-yard year. And the 5.5 touchdowns, I might go over on that too. St. Brown seems a little bit more in line, although Jared Goff loves throwing to him, but 107 passes received. It's a lot. That's a lot. 1,100 yards receiving. I could see that. I could go probably with the over on that. And the 8.5 touchdowns, probably just leave that one alone. But 248-539-9797 is the telephone number if you have an opinion on that. Let's go and take a look at some of the texts. Hey, go back to Campbell's introductory news conference. Everyone remembers the bite kneecaps comment, but what people don't remember was him commenting on little things on offense. The comments were technical and not as quote-worthy, but what I took away from that presser was that Campbell was a really smart football guy, and he knew a lot about offense as well as defense. I agree with you. The biting kneecaps line, that took all the headlines, but there was meat. There was substance to what he had to say. And if there isn't, he wouldn't get his team to buy into what they were doing. And it took them a while before they got that first win, but once they got that first win, things started to change for this team. From Evan in Huntington Woods, I'm not worried about the coordinators at all. Dan Campbell has led this team for 3 years, and I don't think that'll change. The lineman situation is what we need to worry about. I agree with that. Not having Frank Ragnow on this team, that's the anchor of this team. And now you've got to replace him. And will it be Tate Ratledge, the rookie? Will he be moving over to center? Or will it be Graham Glasgow? Will he take over at center? He's done it before with this team. Either way, we're going to have new faces on that offensive line in the middle three. Christian Mahogany, we assume he gets a start at left guard. But how will they shape up the other guard and the center position? It's going to be new. And there's going to be an adjustment. You can't expect a rookie to step in, whether Ratledge plays guard or center. You can't expect him to step in right away and be a Pro Bowler. I have high hopes for Tate Ratledge. I think it's going to be a very good pro. And I tend to think he's going to be the center on this team. But it will take a while before he gets truly acclimated to it. The defenses he saw at Georgia in the SEC, yeah, it prepares you really well for the NFL, but it's still not the NFL. These guys are bigger, stronger, faster. And they're going to throw defenses at you that he's never seen. So when he's going to have to try to make the reads and the pass blocking assignments and all that, there's going to be some confusion at times. It's going to be a learning process and a learning curve, and we'll see how well the Lions are able to adapt to that. Jared Goff is not a top 10 quarterback. There are many quarterbacks I would rather have than Goff. Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, yeah, they would have given us a better chance at beating Washington in the playoffs. Well, neither of those guys play defense. That was the problem for the Lions in the defense, or in the playoffs. Although, admittedly, Jared Goff did not have a good game offensively for the Lions against Washington. But I would, I'll take Jared Goff over Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield has kind of won me back. And I really like CJ Stroud. But I'll take Goff over both of those guys. That's my quarterback. I'll ride with him. He's not the best in the league, but he's a top 10. And you should be able to win with a top 10 quarterback. That I think for sure. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. I saw something in the All-Star game last night that rekindled something in my mind, and it bothered me. And it's something that I probably shouldn't let bother me, but at times you don't want to be the bigger person. And I'm allowed to let things bother me sometimes, and then I can vent my frustration here on the air because I've got the platform to do so. And I will. I'll do it next. 248-539-9797. This is 97.1, The Ticket.
Brought to you by Hamilton Chevrolet. The NHL expected to release their full schedule today. The Red Wings tease that their home opener will be October 9th against the Canadiens. The Lions craze is now expanded to cereal. General Mills announced today that they're releasing limited edition Amon-Ra St. Brown Honey Nut Cheerios called the Honey Handstand. It's a nod to his popular touchdown celebration. The Tigers have the next few days off before kicking off the second half of their season against the Rangers on Friday. Detroit's the best team in baseball by one win. Longtime Michigan gymnastics coach Beth Plotke has announced her retirement from the Wolverines. Her tenure 37 years, 1 national championship, 26 Big Ten titles, and 11 Coach of the Years. Wimbledon produced their largest ESPN TV audience since 2019. The average 720,000 TV sets. At the Corwell Health Sports Desk, I'm Jeremy Otto from Oregon at 97.1 The Ticket or Odyssey.com.
Well, now we can say good afternoon. Looks like we got some storm clouds to the north. I don't know if it's going to rain or not, if it's just going to threaten and be like that kind of all day, but we'll see. Hopefully it won't be too bad. If it does, could use a little bit of rain. I just don't want the storms. I had a friend, I saw some pictures my friend sent me last night of a tree branch that had fallen onto his back patio. That was like a pretty gnarly, and we've had to deal with a lot of rough weather here in this state in the spring and in the summer. But hopefully, we're getting to better weather. Be nice. Nicer today. Doesn't have to be as hot, but I do see that could be some weather coming in. 248-539-9797, the telephone number. Gator with you today on the Carson Anderson program. Kang is with us as well as we take your calls and your texts. Talked a lot about the All-Star game last night. Really impressed with what they did with the All-Star game. I thought it came off beautifully. There were only a couple little small things that I took exception to. One was miking up Tarek Skubal to start the game along with Cal Raleigh. You don't have to mic up both of those guys. I don't know if I'd mic up a pitcher. Interesting idea. If you're going to try it out, you try it out in the All-Star game. But they have very limited time to talk. And when you're getting a question out, and by the time you're letting them answer a question, they literally have just a few seconds before the pitch has to be delivered. Otherwise, it's a pitch clock violation. But, hey, you try it out. It didn't work with Skubal and Cal Raleigh as much. It did work out nicely with Clayton Kershaw, which was actually pretty cool. And the other little nitpick thing I would have is at the end when you were doing the swing-off, the home run derby at the end of the game to determine the winner, because you had a tie and you're not going to extra innings in the All-Star game anymore. It would have been great. It was a missed opportunity, but I get it. Players are leaving. The starters are already dressed and changed and ready to get out of there, and some have already left. But it would have been cool if you could have seen a home run derby determining the winner of the All-Star game that included Shohei Ohtani versus Aaron Judge, among others. That would have been really cool. But alas, it didn't happen that way. Instead, we still had a home run derby to determine the winner. It was damn dramatic